So now we're going to talk about the night session. The night session, uh, that one has its quirks too. But there, as far as the forex market is concerned, there are some really good trades you could get into when you trade the euro dollar, the British pound dollar. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much those two are pretty much like the most solid around this time, because you can capture some really good volatility. Because the thing is, you're catching the London exchange and catching the European markets at night. So after midnight, especially, you can expect a series of sequences of volatility, and it's pretty herky jerky too. So that's the thing you have to expect for the night session. Typically with the night session, things are always herky and jerky. So expect that, meaning that you get glimpses of volatility. Like, things look like they're about to like explode or do whatever they're going to do. And then all of a sudden it goes quiet for like another 40 minutes or, 20 to 40 minutes. And then all of a sudden there's like, increased movement. Then next time it's kind of, teetering around and it's, kind of going sideways or whatever it's doing. It's all kinds of stuff that goes on during the night session. But the two that I would strongly advise you to concentrate on are the euro dollar and the British pound dollar. Those two I strongly advise you to pay attention to and to trade on. And both of these I recommend hourly and 5 minutes, depending on how aggressive you are. If you're not that aggressive, you have somewhat of a timid kind of a conservative strategy, do the hourly. I mean, if you're trying to make money like right then and there, if you're trying to make money like within that particular session, at that moment, then you definitely will need to look at the hourly and the 5-minute binary. And these are based on the recommendations. So I recommend the British pound dollar and the euro dollar in the night session because those two are the most volatile around that time and the most consistent around that time in terms of opportunity, and things of that nature. Everything else, like anything American, the indices, the commodities or anything like that, you pretty much will have to look at the overnight daily charts and look at 4-hour charts or hourly charts or something to take advantage of trades overnight. Okay, so that's what I would recommend, with that. Okay, but if you are trading the session itself, then the euro dollar and the British pound dollar is your best bet. And the euro dollar is pretty much the 5-minute binary, euro dollar binary, is probably the best thing to look at if you're very aggressive, because the spreads are close. Like you're pretty much going to see 20 tick distance between the two. And whenever I'm talking about these ticks and stuff, they might sound a little far to you, but these things get pretty volatile around this time, and 20 ticks is like, it's almost nothing. So that's what you'll want to look into, are the 5-minute binaries with the euro dollar, because you get a lot more movement with that. The 5-minute binaries for the British pound, the British pound dollar, they're about, I believe those are about 40 ticks apart or something like that. Regardless, I think there's pretty good distance with the British pound dollar. So With the hourly, the spreads are about 40 ticks apart with the hourly. So 40 ticks apart, again, in the hourly, that, that's nothing. I mean, that, these things could go like 100 ticks. These things can go like 10 pips at a time, if once it really gets going. But, as I mentioned with the other two sessions, it's all based on your strategy. It's all based on your method, based on how you're trading, and how what I'm talking about right now fits into the mode of your style. If you're looking for a sideways market, if you're looking for, a market that's not that noisy or that volatile or anything like that, then you need to discover one out of these three sessions and really try to figure out, okay, where are the quiet points in this time of day? Because there are quiet points throughout the whole day, okay, including the morning session, the afternoon sessions, the night session. They all have quiet points. I mean, I've seen the American markets kind of go quiet throughout the whole market. Throughout the whole morning, and it won't start picking up until like 9-10 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning. Afternoon, in the morning. I mean, it can go quiet for a while. But then there are other points in time where, like I said, the afternoon session, I mean, it goes crazy. It looks like the morning open, and then, there are points where the morning, I mean, they have like record highs and record lows and all kinds of stuff that goes on in the morning, just like the night session. I've seen big skyscraper bars in the night session. Okay, these things happen, but, you have to be adaptive. You have to adapt to the conditions of that moment, in that time frame, in that session. So if you have a particular session you are favoring over another, you're going to have to be able to build a relationship with the nuances of that session. Building the nuances of that session enables you to really understand and figure out, okay, I understand the points where it gets quiet. I know the points where it gets crazy and intense. Or you are trading during a particular session and you have a particular set amount of time, let's say 3 to 4 hours. And, you want to study the conditions that typically happen within those, those hours. That's a great way to, understand the behavior, that correlates with that time frame, with that schedule, and the thing that kind of boggles me is, at times, is when you hear some of these other guys, they talk about time frames, they talk about the time of day, and, or they're talking about, hey, you could trade anytime, be your own boss and all this, et cetera, et cetera. And, then they tell you, well, you can't just pick any time, because anytime, anything can happen at any time. And then after that, they're talking about the time they trade, and they have a set time that they trade, right? But they're telling you that, hey, anything can happen anytime, and you could just do whatever and it won't matter. And they'll tell you, be open to all time frames and stuff, which you should be open. But if you are a working person, or if you're a person who can only fit in a particular amount of time for trading, then you're going to have to dedicate, time out to understand the nuances of that time frame, the nuances of, you trading between, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. or whatever the case is. And the only way to really learn these things is to actually go in there and operate in that set schedule. You're going to have to be disciplined enough to have a set schedule to trade from. I trade from a set schedule in the morning time from 6:30 to whenever. Sometimes I typically, it only takes me about a couple of hours to make the money I need, typically. But there are moments in time where I may have to stick around and go beyond that time. And sometimes I'll trade all the way to the close, whatever the case is. Sometimes it'll take me only, a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours. But either way, I understand the nuances of that time frame enough to understand, okay, this is the condition it's in right now because I've seen this before in this time. This is the condition that it's in. This is, this, that, and third. So the only way to really build a relationship with those time frames is to actually trade them. So, you can't just trade every single time frame and just throw stuff on the wall and see what happens. It can't really happen that way. So I said all that to say, out of all these sessions, out of all 3 of these sessions, you have to set aside some time for yourself to learn, what is best suited for you and best suited for your schedule. You will need to have a set schedule. You will need to do it. The best traders in the world do. These guys, they trade at a very, very specific time of the day. Typically it's in the morning, but if they're trading other times of the day, or if you can only trade other times of the day, that's for you. Don't worry about what all these other bozos are talking about and what these guys are sitting up here telling you and saying that, this time is useless, that time is useless, and you won't know until you trade it, okay? Just because it doesn't work for them doesn't mean that it won't work for you, okay? So when you're looking into these sessions, pick your session, stick with it. I would say, give it at least a month or 2, for you to really